Welcome back, everyone. We're here with part 2 today of our Cabral HouseCalls. Hopefully you got to tune in yesterday, answering many great questions from the community. Our community never lets us down, that's for sure. So lots of great questions on wellness, weight loss, anti-aging, viruses, you name it. So hopefully you tuned in that yesterday's show. That was episode 2080. You can find that at stephencabral.com/2080. And if you'd like to read along with the questions here today, you can go to stephencabral.com/2081. So what I'm going to do just to get started, I'm going to open up our big document. That's where I keep all of the questions. I actually have an amazing team. They put all of your questions in one big document for me, and I simply answer them in the order they come in. We're about 6 to 7 weeks behind on your questions. We do answer them every single weekend, but they've really been starting to build up. So I just wanted to simply share that with you. If you asked your question after September 1st, they will start to be answered on today's show. So today's show is basically 829, 831. It looks like they came in 919293. Okay. So if you asked after that, it's definitely coming. It just, it has not been completed yet. That's it. All right. So let's get started. Again, just opening up today's documents. First question today is from Cassandra. Cassandra asks, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Since about December, I've noticed a ganglion cyst on my wrist. It goes away occasionally, but eventually it comes back. I asked a physician about it, and they said it could be drained, but still could come back eventually. The only other solution they suggested is to remove it surgically, but only as a last resort if it becomes very painful. Do you know any other natural ways to get rid of this? It's not super painful in daily life, but it's quite uncomfortable. And if I'm holding a plank, for example." Okay, thanks. So happy to help with this. I actually answered the question on ganglion cysts before. So I just want to throw this out to everyone. Just because you asked this on August 29th. So you could actually go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in ganglion cyst, and you would have seen that I answered it on episode 1471. And my answer is not really going to change. I'm going to give you a couple just tips right now, but you can also listen to episode 1471. So with the ganglion cyst, you're basically looking at, if you're watching this on video, this part of your wrist right here. I actually had a ganglion cyst when I was in college, right here. Mine was partially injury related from sports, but also mainly inflammation related. And I've never had one since. It's been 20 years. So here's a couple things you can look at. There's many different natural treatment protocols. The things that I've seen help the best, though, are proteolytic enzymes and an anti-inflammatory nutrition plan. That's mainly what I've seen work the best. So anti-inflammatory nutrition plan, I've been talking about that on the podcast for the last 6 years. 7 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. Remove your food sensitivities. That's a big one. I was eating a lot of food sensitivities back then in college. And the other one is, again, a good proteolytic enzyme like a serapeptase. And one of those good products is called Florafilm. And you can find that at, if you go to stephencabral.com/equalife, you'll be able to find Florafilm there. You can also just type in Florafilm in Google and you'll be able to find it. And that's 4 on an empty stomach upon waking, or 2 upon waking, 2 before bed. That would work as well. And again, I can't provide medical advice or treatment protocols, but these are all things that I would do and have used in my practice. A good hot cold soak and a sink for the wrist for basically heating pad, and then you put an ice bath in that sink. That can be great going back and forth. I've talked about that on shows before. Can be really, really nice. And then you can do a little castor oil pack if you'd like as well. And I have a podcast on castor oil packs, and you can search that at stephencabral.com/podcast. All right. So great question. Karen's up next. "Hi, Dr. Ball. I remember you discussing the Spurti lamp for vitamin D absorption and was wondering if you had been able to test out the lamp. If so, what was your consensus? Super interested in hearing your thoughts." All right. So I was able to use the Spurti lamp and I really did like it. So the Spurti lamp is a different way to get your vitamin D, right? So you have the natural sunlight, but if you're like I was in Maine and Boston, I should say, both places. During the wintertime, you can't get vitamin D from the sun. You're not getting vitamin D from the sun really, except for, well, I mean, if we're really being honest, June through September, because the sun just isn't strong enough in May to get a tan in Boston. Like, it's just not really happening. April, May. Yeah, it's not really happening in May. It's honestly not. So, you have to get your vitamin D in another way. And if you're not traveling down south and you're not taking a vitamin D supplement and you want to use the vitamin D lamp, you can definitely do that. And that's by Spurti. Let me see if I can find that episode for you. So I'm just going to type in Spurti at stephencabral.com/podcast. We'll see if I can find it. Episode 1778. So if people want to learn more about it, you can definitely check it out there. Okay, so let me give you my story on that, though. I used it for a couple weeks, thought the product was great. It's literally 5 minutes. It's super easy to use. You're not using it as like a tanning lamp. The goal is not to get a tan from it. We're not in a tanning booth. We're not saying that. What it is to naturally increase your vitamin D levels. The only issue was that I ended up going south for that part of the winter. So I can't give you an accurate assessment if it raised my vitamin D. However, since then, I've looked up additional research on the Spurti lamp, and it does show that people are raising their vitamin D levels through using the Spurti vitamin D lamp. So I can say, not personally, but I can say from others that it has worked, and it was a super easy product to use. It's a small little, it's almost like a red light lamp. You could do it at the same time as your red light therapy. Honestly, you could use both at the same time if you wanted to. And if you wanted to get your vitamin D instead of through a nutritional supplement, you could definitely do that. We are offering vitamin D lab testing beginning in October, and it's October, with Equilife. So you could actually test your vitamin D levels, and then you could do a month of Spurti, and then you could test your vitamin D as well. So pretty cool way to be able to actually verify for yourself if it's working or not. All right. So pretty great stuff. And again, you can find that vitamin D test just over at Equilife. All right, Alyssa is up next. Alyssa says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have bacterial vaginosis on and off for months on end. I really don't want to have to take antibiotics as I have a liver and GI disease and autoimmune issues I'm working through with nutrition and holistic modalities. I know antibiotics will really set me back. I know you can't prescribe. Just wondering, do you have any suggestions to remedy BV? Thank you immensely." All right, Alyssa, I'm happy to help you. I just want everybody to know that I've answered all of these questions before. So I'm going to type in bacterial vaginosis, and we're going to find out which podcast it was on. All right, it was on episode 590 and episode 506 and 456 and 435 and 358. All right. So 590, 506, 456, 435, 358. Those are all my podcasts with bacterial vaginosis. Now, I'm just going to type in just vaginosis because I know I wrote that for just some. And probably the same shows will pop up. Yep, same ones. Now, let me see if I can just type in BV, and we'll see if any shows pop up individually for that. Too many shows just for that. Okay, so many shows already on bacterial vaginosis, but I'm going to help with this one here today as well, Alyssa. But you've got plenty of other shows to tune back into. We help women with bacterial vaginosis all the time. Here's the issue: if you take antibiotics, it will clear it up for a little bit, and then you'll just relapse. And the reason is that bacterial vaginosis has to do with your gut bacteria as well as the vaginal-based bacteria. And what happens is when the vaginal-based bacteria is not acidic enough, not enough of the lactobacilli-based bacteria, you're going to end up with an overgrowth of bacteria because lactobacilli bacteria, just like in your small intestine, inhibit the growth of other forms and larger proliferations of bacteria, which means you need to make sure that the small intestine has different bacteria than the large intestine, which is why people can sometimes get SIBO and can actually give themselves SIBO if they're super stressed. I've gone through that on many other podcasts before. In terms of bacterial vaginosis, that means something is off with the vaginal-based flora, vaginal-based bacteria. So what we do is we do the Candida metabolic and vitamins test or the bacteria and parasite stool test. We also then do boric acid capsules, and then we'll typically do a lactobacillus-based vaginal suppository, and we get great results. But we'll do the CBO protocol along with it. So we do the CBO protocol along with the citracidal, and then we'll do a suppository of basically vaginal suppository of boric acid that you can make those capsules yourself, as well as then a lactobacilli-based probiotic. And again, we've gotten really great results with that, but you have to work internally as well. You can't just work externally with suppositories. So that's what I recommend. Again, I can't provide you any medical diagnosis, any medical treatment plans, but that's what we do at a root causal level, and it works really well. So in an ideal world, you'll do labs to figure out what's going on with the gut, and then we'll work vaginal suppository wise, and we'll do the CBO protocol with the citracidal drops. All right. But your coach would be able to give you the exact specifics. Angela is up next. Hello, I'm looking for a natural supplement to keep me calm. I become very nervous when I have to go see the doctor and causes my blood pressure to go extremely high. Thanks in advance. Okay, so the best test that you could run first, though, is the minerals and metals test, or the starter kit. You can find the starter kit at stephencabral.com/starter-kits. In terms of a nutritional supplement, I recommend the Adrenal Soothe. That is a product that is used around the world by tens of thousands of people. It's called Adrenal Soothe, SOOTHE, and it soothes stress. So the three main products to help with stress are an activated B complex, full spectrum magnesium, and Adrenal Soothe. So you can go use them all if you'd like, or you can simply use in order of calming, which is Adrenal Soothe. Typically, we do one capsule at lunch and 2 capsules at dinner. But if you find yourself stressed earlier in the day, you can certainly do 1 capsule at breakfast, 1 at lunch, 2 at dinner. You'll just see how it works for you. And then full spectrum magnesium, which would, again, you'd do the same thing. 1 at lunch, 2 at dinner, or if needed, 1 at breakfast, 1 at lunch, 2 at dinner. So that is, those are my recommendations. All right. Good place to start. All right, next up is Stacy. Stacy says, hi, Dr. Ball. My name is Stacy. I'm 29 and an Australian listener. We have just had our winter, and during that time, I noticed the ends of my toes were getting really itchy, red, and swollen. It was such an uncomfortable feeling. I was told I have Chilblains and that there really isn't a cure than just to keep your feet warm at all times. I must say that has helped so much, but I was wondering if there was a response to something else. I've never had this issue before. I tried to search it up on the issue in your podcast, but couldn't find any resources. Thanks so much for your help, Stacy. Okay, Stacy, happy to help with this. Yeah, we don't talk about this a lot, but it's very similar to Raynaud's. So if you've heard of Raynaud's before, it's not drastically different, but diagnosed differently. Okay, so they both pretty much happen in the cold. Raynaud's can happen any time of the year, but certainly worse in the cold. It's definitely a circulatory issue. Raynaud's, hands and feet, fingers and toes, same with Chilblains. And sometimes Chilblains is more of like a red rash than the purple that you would get with the Raynaud's. But in our experience, we've been able to help with both. And that's because there's an underlying root cause to everything. So the issue was higher levels of stress. So we would run the Big Five. So stephencabral.com/Big Five. We'd run those labs. We would see what's going on. We would see if there's electrolyte imbalances. We would see if there's adrenal cortisol stress. We would see if there's lower thyroid, which there often is. We would see if there's magnesium deficiency, and we would go about rebalancing the body. So I recommend the same for you. There's just no doubt about it. Yes, keeping your fingers and toes warm is helpful, but again, that's not getting at the underlying root cause. Looking at circulation, looking at that circulatory issue potentially from sympathetic nervous system stress. So that is what I recommend. All right. Let me know if there's any follow-up questions. Sarah's up next. Hi, love your podcast. I'd love for you to review the book called No Period, Now What? By Lisa Sanfilippo. I know it's very niche, but I also know that you're all about granularity rather than surface level. I'm sure you have listeners that would be interested or know others that are going through it. I think a review would be very valuable for us all to strengthen your knowledge, our knowledge in this area too. Hope you consider it. Okay. So I very well may. I'll take a look at it. And if I feel it's a good fit for our community, then maybe I will give that definitely a review. So what I would say though is if any woman is experiencing infertility or dysregulated menstrual cycles or missing period, the number one best way to fix that and look at it 100% is to run the Big Five. And if you can't run the Big Five and you can only run one lab, then it's the hormones test. So you go to stephencabral.com/hormones test. You'll see the lab that I recommend, because we know why women become dysregulated from their menstrual cycle. Low thyroid, high cortisol, higher levels of estrogen, or estrogen dominance at least, lower levels of progesterone, which can be lower levels with lower levels of DHEA as well, dysregulated blood sugar. So just keep in mind, high sympathetic nervous system stress lowers progesterone, dysregulates menstrual cycle, causes estrogen dominance, and along with that can come lower levels of thyroid. And of course, the higher levels of cortisol would signal the stress. So again, we work with this and women every single day in our practice. It's there's no like straight lines in the world to getting well, but hands down, running at least that one lab and getting a protocol built on your bioindividuality is the absolute best way of doing it. Now, can you also and should you also read more about it? 100%. And I'm a big advocate of that, especially if, a book like this is talking about reducing sympathetic nervous system stress, keeping the body in a calm place, not in a survival-based spot. All of that can be very beneficial. So I'll check it out. And I always appreciate the book reviews. There's no doubt about it. I try to review at least one book a week on my Friday Review podcast. So always looking for new ones. So thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you. And thanks for looking out for our community as well. Thank you, everyone. That was our 6th question for today. So that is going to be a wrap. I appreciate all of you tuning into today's show. I will be back tomorrow. It is our Mindset and Motivation Monday. I hope you tune in then, and I hope you've had an amazing weekend. All right, take care, everyone.